The manuscripts you are about to discover were sealed for more than a century by the Theosophical Society itself. Helena Blavatsky, the woman who challenged both the science and religion of her time, left secret records about something that completely contradicts her public teachings about the astral body. What she discovered about the true mechanisms of spiritual detachment will shake everything you believe about sleep, dreams, and the nature of the human soul. After learning these hidden revelations, you will never see dawn the same way again. If you were guided to this knowledge today, it's because your consciousness is prepared to understand truths that have been kept in absolute secrecy. Helena Petrovna Blavatsky was not just a mystic. She was an explorer of the deepest planes of human existence. Born in Russia in 1831, she traveled the world collecting ancestral knowledge that she would later compile in The Secret Doctrine and Isis Unveiled. But what few know is that her most revealing writings were never published. During her final years of life, between 1889 and 1891, Blavatsky developed an extraordinary capacity for consciousness during what she called nightly little deaths. It was as if, night after night, she died partially only to return at dawn with knowledge she didn't possess when falling asleep. In private letters to Annie Besant and Henry Steele Olcott, she described experiences that went far beyond the astral projection described in her public books. Blavatsky had discovered that the return of the spirit to the physical body follows precise laws that she managed to map through years of meticulous observation of her own nightly detachments. But why was this knowledge kept secret? Why did the Theosophical Society itself decide to seal these manuscripts? The answer lies in the transformative power of these revelations. Knowledge that could fundamentally alter human understanding about life, death, and consciousness. If you've ever felt there's something beyond what we're taught about sleep, if you've ever awakened with the sensation of having lived experiences more real than your own waking life, leave a comment writing "I feel," because you're about to discover that these sensations are not imagination, but fragmented memories of journeys your soul takes every night. What I'm going to reveal now is recorded in Blavatsky's personal diary, a manuscript that was only discovered in 1975 in the secret archives of the Theosophical Society of London. During the winter of 1890, Blavatsky developed a revolutionary technique to maintain partial consciousness during nightly spiritual detachment. She discovered that between 3 and 6 in the morning, there exists a phenomenon she called obligatory magnetic return, something that forces the spirit to return to the physical body regardless of where it's traveling in the astral planes. But wait, because what she discovered about this process will completely change your understanding of why we naturally wake up at certain times. Blavatsky mapped that planet Earth possesses specific electromagnetic cycles that directly influence the human soul's capacity for detachment. During the early hours of dawn, between 2 and 4 a.m., Earth's magnetic field reaches its greatest subtlety, allowing the spirit to free itself almost completely from material limitations. However, starting at 4 a.m., what she termed progressive vibrational condensation begins. The planet's electromagnetic field gradually densifies, creating an irresistible force of attraction that pulls the spirit back to its physical vehicle. In her secret notes, Blavatsky describes this process as the call of dense matter over subtle matter. It's as if the physical body were a magnet that, strengthened by terrestrial magnetic changes, literally pulls the soul back to incarnation. But here's the detail she never revealed publicly. This return is neither random nor unconscious. The spirit returns carrying with it information, teachings, and energies collected during its nightly travels through the superior planes of existence. Let me tell you in the next few minutes about the most extraordinary case that Blavatsky documented about her own conscious return experiences. Before continuing, tell me in the comments, from which city are you listening to me? I'm curious to know where the people who feel this deep connection with the mysteries of consciousness are located. Write your city in the comments. It might be that other awakened souls from your region are also discovering these truths at the same moment. What I'm going to tell you now was recorded by Blavatsky on March 15, 1890, during what she considered her most revealing experience about the mechanisms of spiritual return. That night, using secret techniques learned from the Mahatmas of Tibet, Blavatsky managed to maintain a thread of awakened consciousness while her spirit detached from the physical body. She described the sensation as watching oneself die and resurrect simultaneously. During the detachment, her spirit traveled to what she called the superior Akashic libraries, planes of existence where not only past and present events are recorded, but also the future possibilities of each soul incarnated on Earth. But here's the extraordinary part. During this journey, Blavatsky was instructed by entities she identified as guardians of cosmic records about the true purposes of nightly spiritual travels. According to these beings, each nightly detachment has a specific function in the evolutionary development of human consciousness. The spirit doesn't travel randomly during sleep. It's directed by spiritual guides to access exactly the knowledge and experiences it needs for its evolution. It's as if every night we were students in a cosmic university, receiving personalized classes according to our level of spiritual development. But the most impressive thing was what she discovered about the return. The Guardians revealed that dawn represents the moment of crystallization of superior experiences in material consciousness. The spirit returns loaded with wisdom that must be gradually integrated into the awakened personality. This is why we often wake up with solutions to problems that seemed unsolvable, with sudden understandings about complex situations, or with an inexplicable sensation of peace and mental clarity. These aren't coincidences, they're direct fruits of the teachings received during the soul's nightly journeys. Blavatsky discovered that people with more advanced spiritual development can bring clearer memories of these experiences to awakened consciousness. In her diaries, she developed specific exercises to amplify this capacity. If you frequently wake up between 3 and 5 a.m., if you have dreams so vivid they seem more real than your daily life, if you feel as if you've studied during the night, comment, "I recognize we," because your spirit may be accessing these same superior planes of knowledge. But what Blavatsky discovered next completely changed her understanding about the nature of death and immortality. During a particularly deep experience in April 1890, her spirit was conducted to a plane of existence she described as the assembly of ascended masters. There, she encountered beings who had completely transcended the need for physical incarnation, but who still maintained loving connection with terrestrial humanity. What these masters revealed about the process of spiritual return at dawn was revolutionary. According to them, the daily cycle of detachment and return during sleep is a gradual and systematic preparation for what we call death. Every night, we experience a miniaturized version of the disincarnation process, progressively accustoming our spirit to the experience of existing independently of the physical body. But here's the secret that was never revealed publicly. The masters taught Blavatsky that those who develop consciousness of their nightly travels during physical life face the transition of death with absolute serenity. They already know through direct experience that consciousness persists beyond the body, that spiritual life is infinitely richer than material existence. Blavatsky noted textually the words of one of the masters, "Death is simply a definitive awakening, just as dawn is a temporary return. He who understands the mystery of the morning return understands the mystery of eternal life." The masters also revealed something she considered the most dangerous knowledge of all, that certain developed souls can consciously choose the moment of their final return. They can decide when to definitively interrupt the cycle of morning returns and remain in the superior planes. But there was one condition. This choice is only possible for those who have completed their terrestrial missions and developed unconditional universal love for all humanity. And then, at the most intense moment of this revelation, when Blavatsky was about to receive instructions on how to develop this supreme capacity for conscious choice over life and death, she felt an irresistible force pulling her back. Earth's magnetic field was beginning its phase of greatest density, forcing the obligatory return to the physical body. But what happened during this forced return, what she experienced in the final moments of reconnection with dense matter, this revealed the greatest of all secrets about the nature of human consciousness. If you feel it's no coincidence you're here, if you sense there's a greater purpose behind these revelations, comment, "I understand," because you're part of a special group of souls being prepared to understand truths that will transform humanity. What happened to Blavatsky during that forced return at dawn in April 1890 was documented in details she never shared with any member of the Theosophical Society. During the final seconds of reconnection between spirit and physical body, she experienced what she described as the total vision of human existence. It was as if, in the exact moment of return, she could simultaneously perceive her current life, all her past incarnations, and the future possibilities of her spiritual evolution. But the most extraordinary thing was discovering that this moment of return at dawn is, in reality, a portal, a point of intersection between all dimensions of existence where the soul can access the totality of its cosmic experience. Blavatsky realized she had discovered what the ancient Egyptian initiates called the secret of daily resurrection. Each dawn represents a small resurrection, a complete renewal of consciousness, where the spirit brings to material life the energies and knowledge collected in the superior planes. In her secret records, she noted, "I finally understood why the ancient sages venerated dawn as a sacred moment. It's not just the birth of a new day. It's the birth of a new evolved version of ourselves." But there was something even deeper. During the return, Blavatsky received a revelation about the final evolutionary purpose of humanity. The Ascended Masters showed her that humanity is being gradually prepared for a consciousness transformation, where all human beings will have conscious access to their nightly spiritual travels. This evolution is happening now, at this exact moment in human history. People around the world are beginning to wake up with clearer memories of their nightly experiences. They're developing expanded intuitive capacities. They're feeling deeper connections with spiritual dimensions of existence. You yourself may be experiencing this. If you have prophetic dreams that later come true, if you wake up with creative solutions to complex problems, if you feel an inner wisdom you can't explain rationally, it's because your spirit is bringing knowledge from the superior planes to your awakened consciousness. Blavatsky discovered that this capacity can be developed through specific practices she developed based on the Master's teachings. But when she was about to document these revolutionary techniques, when she was finally going to reveal the exact methods to develop total consciousness during nightly spiritual travels and the return at dawn, something extraordinary happened. Something that changed not only her understanding about these phenomena, but revealed a conspiracy of silence that has existed for centuries to keep these truths hidden from humanity. Write in the comments what your first reaction was to hearing these revelations. Are you feeling that there's something much greater happening here? Share your experience. Your words might be exactly what another person needs to read to confirm their own spiritual perceptions. What happened in May 1890 explains why Blavatsky's most important writings never saw the light of day. When she was about to publish her discoveries about the conscious mechanisms of spiritual return, influential members of the Theosophical Society received an unexpected visit. 3 men who identified themselves only as guardians of the occult tradition appeared simultaneously in London, Paris, and New York. These men carried documents proving they knew intimate details of Blavatsky's private experiences, details she had never shared with anyone. The message was clear. Certain truths about human consciousness could not be revealed publicly because humanity was not yet prepared. But here's what they really feared. Blavatsky had discovered that the techniques for maintaining consciousness during nightly spiritual travels could be taught to anyone. They weren't privileges of special initiates. They were natural capacities of the human soul that had been deliberately suppressed throughout the centuries. The Guardians revealed that there exists a hidden power structure that for millennia has controlled which spiritual knowledge is revealed to humanity. They explained that allowing general access to conscious detachment techniques would create such a radical transformation in human consciousness that it would completely alter the social, religious, and political structures of the planet. Imagine, if all people could consciously access the superior planes during sleep, if they could receive direct teachings from Ascended Masters, if they could verify through their own experience the immortal nature of the soul. How would this change the way we live, work, relate to each other? Blavatsky was forced to accept an agreement. She could continue her personal research, but would never reveal the specific techniques she had developed. In exchange, she would receive protection to continue her other theosophical works. But she was more astute than they imagined. In the final months of her life, Blavatsky developed a secret code and hid the true techniques within apparently harmless texts, personal letters, and marginal notes in her books. This code was only deciphered in 1982 by a group of researchers who discovered the hidden pattern in her writings. If you feel there's a force trying to keep humanity asleep, if you perceive that certain spiritual truths are systematically hidden or ridiculed, comment "I see," because you're recognizing the same patterns that Blavatsky identified more than a century ago. What I'm going to tell you now was extracted from Blavatsky's secret code, decoded from a letter she sent to her sister Vera in September 1890. After the agreement with the Guardians, Blavatsky decided to perform one final and definitive experiment. She wanted to prove to herself that she had really discovered the universal secrets of spiritual return at dawn, or if everything was nothing more than elaborate hallucinations. During 3 consecutive nights between September 15th and 17, 1890, she performed what she called the supreme test of consciousness. Using the most advanced techniques she had developed, she proposed to maintain total consciousness during the entire cycle: detachment, spiritual travel, and return to the physical body. The first night was a partial success. She managed to maintain a thread of consciousness during detachment, traveled to a plane she described as Library of Terrestrial Souls, and brought back specific information about 3 people she knew, including details about their past lives that she later confirmed to be true. The second night was even more extraordinary. Her spirit was conducted to what she identified as Evolutionary Planning Council, a plane where superior entities determine the experiences necessary for the growth of each incarnated soul. There, she had access to the records of her own terrestrial mission and understood why she had been born with the specific capacities she possessed. But it was on the third night that something happened that forever changed her understanding about the nature of reality. During the return to the physical body that dawn, Blavatsky experienced what she described as conscious death and voluntary resurrection. For several minutes, she managed to remain totally detached from the physical body, observing it as if it were an external object, while simultaneously maintaining full consciousness of her spiritual identity. It was in this state of exterior observation that she had the most important revelation of her life. She realized that the physical body is not a prison of the soul, as many spiritual traditions teach, but rather a conscious tool that the soul chooses to use for specific learning experiences. The return to the body is not an imprisonment. It's a conscious choice of the soul that decides again to inhabit dense matter, to continue fulfilling its specific evolutionary mission. Blavatsky noted textually, "I understood that every dawn is a new voluntary incarnation, a new opportunity that our immortal soul offers to our terrestrial personality to evolve and serve." Write in the comments if you've ever felt that you consciously chose to be here, in this life, at this specific moment in history. If you have the sensation that there's a greater mission you came to fulfill on Earth, your confirmation might awaken this same memory in other people who are reading now. Now I'm going to reveal what Blavatsky considered her most revolutionary discovery. The secret she hid in code, because she knew it would completely change human understanding about life and death. During her experience of conscious death on the third night, she discovered that there exists a fundamental difference between 2 forms of immortality: the natural immortality of the soul and the conscious immortality of personality. All souls are naturally immortal. Spiritual traditions have always known this. But Blavatsky discovered that it's possible to develop conscious immortality, the capacity to maintain continuity of memory and personality through multiple incarnations and states of existence. The key lies in the conscious mastery of spiritual return at dawn. When a person develops the capacity to consciously return to the physical body every morning, bringing clear memories of their experiences in the superior planes, they are training their consciousness to maintain continuity through any transition, including physical death. Blavatsky discovered that the great masters and avatars of humanity developed exactly this capacity. They not only survive the death of the physical body, maintaining their conscious individuality, but can consciously choose to reincarnate, maintaining memories of all their previous lives. But here's the secret she never revealed publicly. This capacity is not a privilege of exceptional beings. It's the natural evolutionary destiny of all humanity. Each person who develops consciousness of their morning returns is taking a giant step toward conscious immortality. The process is gradual and natural. First, you develop consciousness of your nightly spiritual travels. Then you learn to bring specific memories of these experiences to waking life. Gradually, these memories become clearer and more detailed until you develop total continuity of consciousness between all states of existence. When this happens, physical death becomes simply a change of state, like taking off one piece of clothing and putting on another. Individual consciousness remains intact, with all memories, personality, and wisdom accumulated over multiple existences. Blavatsky tested this principle on herself during her final months of life. She knew she was dying of kidney disease, but instead of fearing death, she awaited it as the final opportunity to prove her discoveries. In her final notes, dated 2 days before her death in May 1891, she wrote, "The definitive return approaches, but now I know it's not a return to nothing, but a return to everything. The consciousness I developed through morning returns will allow me to maintain my individuality even after leaving this physical body." And then, at the moment of her death, something extraordinary happened. Several people reported simultaneous experiences around the world. If you feel there's something eternal and indestructible in your consciousness, if you have the intuition that your true identity goes far beyond this current life, comment "I remember," because you may be accessing memories of your own conscious immortality. What Blavatsky discovered about conscious immortality has implications that go far beyond individual spiritual development. Her discoveries point to an evolutionary transformation that is happening now throughout all humanity. According to her secret records, humanity is entering what she called the era of collective awakening. More and more people around the world are spontaneously developing capacities that were once considered exceptional. Memories of past lives, conscious detachment experiences, communication with superior planes of existence. This is not coincidence. It's a natural evolutionary process that has been accelerated by the energetic transformations that planet Earth is experiencing at this specific historical moment. Blavatsky predicted that between the end of the 20th century and the beginning of the 21st century, there would be a dramatic acceleration of these awakenings. Ordinary people would begin to have experiences that were once the privilege only of mystics and advanced initiates. And this is exactly what we're seeing today. Millions of people report profound spiritual experiences, prophetic dreams, expanded intuitive capacities, sensations of connection with superior dimensions of reality. But here's the most revolutionary implication of her discoveries. When a sufficient number of people develop consciousness of their nightly spiritual travels and conscious return at dawn, this will create what she called the morphogenetic field of conscious immortality. This field will facilitate the awakening of all other human beings, as if the expanded consciousness of some created a wave that automatically elevates the consciousness of the entire human species. Blavatsky calculated that approximately 1% of the world's population would need to develop these capacities to reach the evolutionary tipping point. When this happens, knowledge of conscious immortality will become naturally accessible to all humanity. The implications are extraordinary. A humanity conscious of its immortal nature would create civilizations based on unconditional love, cosmic wisdom, and universal cooperation. Wars, artificial scarcity, manipulation based on fear, all of this would become impossible in a society of beings conscious of their eternity. This is why certain power groups have tried to keep these truths hidden throughout the centuries. They understand that the awakening of immortal consciousness in humanity would mean the end of all systems based on domination and control. But the process is irreversible. The evolution of human consciousness cannot be permanently stopped. And you, who are hearing these revelations now, are part of the vanguard of this planetary awakening. Tell your own experience in the comments. Have you been feeling changes in your consciousness recently? Have you had more vivid dreams, clearer intuitions, a sensation of remembering something you always knew? Share your experience. It might be exactly what another person needs to read to confirm their own awakening process. Now that you know the secrets that Helena Blavatsky discovered about spiritual return at dawn, your life will never be the same, because you cannot unknow these truths. They will become part of your expanded consciousness forever. From today on, Each dawn will be a sacred opportunity to integrate the wisdom your soul brought from its nightly travels through the superior planes. Each awakening will be a new chance to consciously apply the teachings received from your spiritual guides during sleep. But remember, with knowledge comes responsibility. Now that you understand the mechanisms of conscious immortality, you have the opportunity to accelerate your own spiritual development and contribute to humanity's collective awakening. The techniques that Blavatsky developed are still coded in her writings, waiting to be rediscovered by those who are ready for this level of consciousness. If you feel the call to deepen this knowledge, trust that intuition. Your soul is guiding you to the next steps of your evolution. Start tonight. Before sleeping, make a sincere prayer asking to consciously remember your nightly spiritual experiences. Place a notebook beside your bed to write down any fragment of memory you bring upon awakening. Practice conscious awakening. When you wake up in the morning, remain motionless for a few minutes with your eyes closed, trying to capture the last sensations, images, or understandings received during the night. And above all, trust the process. Your soul knows exactly what experiences you need to have to continue evolving. The nightly travels and morning returns will happen naturally, bringing exactly the teachings you're prepared to receive. Helena Blavatsky proved that conscious immortality is not a myth. It's a natural capacity of the human soul that can be developed through conscious practice of spiritual return at dawn. You are guided to this knowledge because your consciousness is ready to take the next evolutionary step. It's not coincidence. It's part of a greater cosmic plan where certain pioneer souls open the way for the awakening of all humanity. The next time you wake up at dawn, remember, your spirit just returned from an extraordinary journey through dimensions of light and wisdom. The sensations, intuitions, and understandings you bring from this experience are sacred gifts from your spiritual mentors to help you in your terrestrial evolutionary journey. Your immortal soul knows secrets that your conscious mind is still discovering. Every night, you have access to a cosmic university where you receive personalized teachings for your spiritual growth. Each dawn is an opportunity to apply this divine wisdom in your daily life, accelerating your evolution toward the conscious immortality that Helena Blavatsky discovered to be the glorious destiny of all humanity. The awakening has begun, and you are a fundamental part of this planetary transformation that will forever change the history of human consciousness on Earth. If these revelations touched your soul deeply, if you feel your life just changed, if you recognize it was no coincidence to have arrived at this knowledge, share this content with someone you know is also ready to awaken. Together, we are the force that will transform this world through immortal consciousness.